You have
I'm
to
not
tell
worried.
people now.
Yeah, I know, I had someone say that to me earlier, I'm like, really? Not worried.
Thanks, man.
There you go, that's perfect.
I wanna make sure everybody gets in the camera one way or another.
Okay, the thing, everywhere I go, I'm on Facebook Live, and he says to me, are you on Facebook Live again?
Yes, we know we have sound, check that.
Okay. But it's not a story if you're right there listening to me.
Okay.
Do we have the little
Alright.
mics where we can, there, is
Oh,
that it?
The,
you
Oh.
have, I think he should
no, it's
have.
over there, is that, I think that's,
Is that the?
oh no, that's her recording,
Oh, Lord.
she's recording, we do it all kinds of ways,
All right.
the mic's over there. So we'll take it.
Yeah, this actually made it go through the speakers easier last time.
Yeah, to put it next
Yeah.
to the.
Sure. I can do this. This is a different one, it looks like. Okay, do this.
Are we recording?
Side. We're recording, go ahead, we're ready.
Okay, we're starting the meeting for the June 15th Financial Advisory Committee meeting at 4:08 PM. We're a few minutes late. We are going to change around the schedule to accommodate our new superintendent, just to make sure he has enough time to talk to us. Dr. Bernier, you're up.
You can't hear him.
Can you hear us, Dr. Bernier?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, we can hear
Okay,
you
now
now too.
just turn
Okay.
your volume up.
Well, to the members, I guess it's my introduction, is that, did you just turn it over to me?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, Daryl talks really low, so it's hard to hear.
Yeah, I could not hear Daryl.
Sorry.
I could not hear Daryl, but let me begin by saying, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and see me and listen to the conversation, regarding this wonderful committee. A finance advisory committee in the school district is an extremely important role. I look forward to getting to know the members of this committee even better than some of them I already do. You were well represented last evening by Daryl. You did a great job at the podium. So yesterday afternoon, discussing the finance committee and recommendations you've been making. It has been a wonderful opportunity to get to know him at the first meeting and then interact with him a little bit yesterday and then get a chance to talk to him just outside the chamber doors and really catch him up on things that were happening. For those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Dr. Christopher Bernier. I am pleased to have been selected as the superintendent moving forward for the County School District. One of my 7 bosses is in the room, Gwen Gittens. She's an amazing board member who really has been wonderful to me in the aspect of, just like all of them, in terms of helping me orient myself to community, different zones, different regions of Lee County, helping me meet some of the movers and shakers of this community. And I'm very excited for that tutelage and support. I know there are members of this committee also that will be able to help you do that same thing by either introducing yourselves and getting to know you better, or by introducing yourselves, getting to know you better, and then allowing you to meet some of the other individuals that you work and surround yourself with. The focus of this administration and my work is to make sure Lee County Schools continues to get better. In that process, we want to be more transparent, more honest, and more clear in our decision making. And I will rely on committees such as this to help advise both myself and the board as we move forward, especially around the area of financial decisions that can impact the livelihoods of our employees and teachers, but most of all, can impact the lives and the trajectory of our students. I will tell you that belief in students is the reason why I came to the school district. And I have told some of you that the one item in my background and in my values is integrity, and that is my one non-negotiable. I cannot negotiate that. I cannot steer away from it. It drives my moral compass and keeps me pointed towards making sure that all decisions are made in the best interest of children. I'm open to some questions about me if that's where you'd like to go next. I don't want to take time away from this very important committee. I know that you have work to do. You're one of the few committees that continues to meet throughout the summer, and that probably has a lot to do with the budget process never ends. In the state of Florida, we are constantly either wrapping one up or building a new one, and sometimes we are doing both, and that is this time of year. We are working towards the finalization of our 21-22 budget. At the same time, we're getting started with 22-23, and we will have actuals and budgets to report in September. So there's lots of work to be done, and look forward to listening in. I will tell all of you that I am trying to hire a secretary for my office. We are down to 2 finalists and candidates. I do need to step away at about 5 o'clock to talk to those 2 candidates and interview them one more time in order to get to a final decision. So I'm not running away from the finance committee. I'm simply trying to do 2 things at once: be a responsible employee of the school district, but at the same time find me some help, so I might find some time in my day to get some extra things done. So a great executive assistant would be helpful in that process. So I'll turn it back over to you, Darryl, and let you steer your committee or steer members towards me if they have questions.
Sorry, do you want me to move this over here, this mic?
No, that's for that one. This is the one that people can hear you, so we'll pass that around as you're asking questions.
Ken, did you want to go first and we'll just work this way?
Start with questions.
Or comments,
What's
or
on your
Questions,
mind?
comments?
whatever's on your mind.
It's on my mind. Hi,
Yeah.
nice to meet you. Thanks for.
Here, take the,
So,
Am
I may have trouble
over here?
hearing you.
Okay, yeah, it's a pleasure. I guess I'll start by throwing out a couple issues that have gone around and around in this room over the last couple years, which I'm sure you're really keenly aware of, and have gotten a little worse as time's gone on. One is teacher retention, and how do we compensate our teachers, and where do we find the money in the budget to do that? And part of that compensation has come up many times is the benefits. And specifically the fact that one of my things that I always bring up is that the teachers or the employees don't choose to take healthcare coverage because they might be able to get it cheaper or better elsewhere. They don't get any money from the district for that. They either take it or lose that benefit. So there are 2 issues there. One is that aspect of it, and the second aspect of it is that there's very little given to cover dependents and children. And that I think is a secondary issue, but a big issue, but many companies don't cover that anyway. So I don't know if you have time to dig into those issues, but curious to hear what you think about it.
I'll touch base with you. There's 2 hard issues that are because these are going to be probably interest items for our unions to bargain. I have to be careful so there will be no decisions made. First thing I want to tell everybody is there's an RFP that will go out on the street for insurance in the spring of 23. I know that's been a recommendations committee for longer than that, and I know you're probably not pleased with the fact that that recommendation had not been moved forward faster, but we will go out for requests for proposals or requests for proposals, what I call an RFP. Sometimes they're also called an RFQ. We will put those out on the street looking at insurance programs, and I will tell you that there's one unique thing about Fort Myers and Lee County that makes our choices of insurance programs more limited than others. We have only one hospital, and we have to ensure that whatever organization we choose to insure our employees with, that insurance company must have a relationship with the health. So that's one. But that is a very unique complication in the state of Florida where you have multiple hospitals in multiple locations at this point. Lee County is just one that does not have one yet. I assume that at some point now that the federal and state mandates to show a need for a hospital, hospitals now are permitted to build anywhere they choose, as long as they can build it and can afford it. So you may see some additional hospitals challenging the Lee County border and attempting to either expand northward because there's a system to our south. And there are some hospitals just north of us that may choose to come further south. That's one issue. The other issue is you're absolutely correct. Insurance benefits are one of the things that are turning up in exit interviews with our employees, something that I've reinstituted with our human resource department, trying to find out why people are leaving. And usually it talks about compensation. When I spoke to the board during my interview, compensation is not always about salary. Compensation is about other things. Comp includes insurance benefits, employer contributions, and things like that. I can tell you in a very deep study over the last 6 weeks, because the board had a great vision of bringing me on as a consultant prior to the superintendency and a chance to shadow and to continue to learn without the responsibilities per se of the superintendency. I was able to begin to interact with staff. Of the local government organizations, Lee County Schools has the cheapest insurance related to the full payment of what we have to pay per employee. The difference really comes in employee contribution, and it's further exacerbated when you look at a family plan. We pay about $8,000, a little more than $8,000 a year for an employee to help with their insurance. The local sheriff pays about 17, and for a family, he pays 22. So you can imagine the difference between buying a car with a $22,000 down payment and buying a car with an $8,000. We have to look with our board and with our unions. We have to try to find, the finance committee can help us. We're gonna need to find some dollars, but I can tell you, if I'm remembering the figure correctly, for every time we raise the benefit by $100, Kelly, not if I get this wrong or right. Every time we raise it by $100, it basically costs us $1 million.
Right.
So if we were to take 8,200 and raise it to 8,300 for every one of our employees, that would cost us $1 million. So you can see the gap between 8,000 and 17,000, and the gap between 8,000 and 22,000. You can see the math we have to now try to navigate. So that's a quick summary of what we're facing. Other than one more quick thing, we have the inflationary cost of insurance and medical care. Insurance isn't inflated, but the amount of money charged for services is inflating. It is inflating like the gas pump is inflated on all of us. Therefore our costs are more expensive, and we have trimmed, I think, about as much as you want to trim out of an insurance program in terms of benefits. We get much further beyond the 80% range. We're not at 80% yet, but we're in the 80s of the value of it. We start to get down to the 60s, that the Affordable Care Act kicks in. We have what's referred to as a nuclear option. It's not attractive. It has to do with forced health care and other things. We are required to provide health care to our employees. We do not necessarily have to be self-insured. We have choices to make moving forward. We have some real treacherous things in front of us that we have to deal with, and we have to deal with openly and honestly. And we will be discussing these in a deeper way with the board in the coming months, and also beginning that engagement with our unions in interest-based bargaining sessions. I hope that gives you enough of an overview.
Yeah, just a follow,
They can't.
can you hear? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, just a follow-up, just a comment that, one of the important things about the RFP we've tried to stress over every time is it needs to be more open for looking for creative solutions and not just looking for, pricing on administrative services. Because there seems to be a miscommunication between what we've asked for and what the insurance department is understanding.
Something to caution us against. Sometimes when you go with a new company, there's reduced costs. Chris Bernier just bought a house. He just found the cable company in his house this morning. My cost for cable is definitely going to be less than yours because I'm in that magical 24-month period, right? Everything's just a little bit cheaper. 24 months from now, I'm going to get hit with a bill that I don't know what to do with. If we're not careful, we will choose an insurance company that 24 months in, 2 years into the program, changes the fees. At that point, yes, you go out for another RFQ. But imagine one day you have Blue Cross, the next day you have Aetna, the next day you have Cigna. Every 2 years, if you're changing providers, what's really starting to impact is your ability to have quality care from a physician, from the same physician over a period of time. So that's just a caution when we open RFQs and we see what we get. We want to look longitudinally out to make sure that we're making the best decision, not only short term, but long term. Because if every 2 years you're changing your insurance card, there's no guarantee that the doctor I've been with will be available in the next program. So I hear completely what you're saying, just an element of caution.
Good evening. So it was nice meeting you, and my son was very excited to meet you. He asked me to say hi to you.
Yes.
I can see that.
Well, this committee has discussed a lot of things about transportation over the, few years I've been with this committee. And it's ongoing tough problem, and we all know that, but I'm afraid this upcoming season, we'll probably have the shortage of drivers again, but we also have rising cost of the fuel and parts and everything else. And it's like, it shouldn't come as very unexpectedly in October, it comes August, and we have those signs and we have all those news reports that we really don't want to see. But I would really like, to make a comment that I'm sure transportation is doing a great job, but if we all can focus on something that helps them with whatever challenges they will have this upcoming school year, because they will have more challenges. That should be the focus, your focus and the board's focus, and obviously everybody involved in this district.
I've spoken to our comms team already. We are also underway with a sort of an ad hoc committee of mine coming to the board in July regarding our proximity work. So ultimately, transportation comes down to, and its inordinate amount of expense, comes down to the amount of choice that we transport. Now, let's be clear, if everybody had a zone school and you moved in next to Amonasera Elementary, our newest elementary across the street, if you were coming from another county or another state, you'd have a reasonable expectation that you would be able to walk your daughter across the street to Amonasera Elementary School. That's not the case, right? You could choose from a variety of schools, and we're transporting all of that choice. A couple of pieces of good news moving forward. Our bus drivers are about to get their attendance bonus. They're about to pick up a bonus in the fall when they return. And at last count, we got beaten out by Santa Rosa County. I'm still trying to find it on a map in Florida, even though I was in Florida for 33 years. I apologize, I don't know where Santa Rosa is. But when they settled, they bumped us to number 3. But we are now the 3rd highest paying school district for bus drivers. Our bus drivers have risen in salary to number 3. We're outpacing even lead training in terms of what lead trainers are. So that should help with a cultural shift in transportation that drivers are valued. That's another piece of retention of teachers and retention of bus drivers. It's not just about salaries and compensation. It's about a culture, it's about a sense of purpose, it's about a sense of belonging, and the ability to make a difference. We have to start instilling that in our executives that oversee transportation and our transportation managers, and start building a culture that says bus drivers are appreciated for what they do. And that begins also with principals, because as a principal, I once had an accident out on I-4 that held my buses up for 45 minutes. It's amazing what a school doesn't know what to do when the kids don't show up. And I don't want to get into the situation that is occurring in Lexington, Kentucky, and Scott County, right next door. They're having something this year called Yellow Rides. For a 2-week period of time, members of the community did not get transportation to their school site. They could not cover it. So for 2 weeks, if you lived in a certain area, there was no bus transportation. You were on your own. In my daughter-in-law's neighborhood, they could pull that off. They had multiple parents, they had some stay-at-home moms, they had some dads working from home. They could get the kids to and from school in their little cul-de-sac. There are a lot of members of our community that would mean 2 weeks with a child not going to school. So we have to do something with transportation board, and I think the work on the proximity plan with a recommendation coming to the board in January regarding choice transportation, and with community involvement in the process, we should be able to resolve some of those things. I will throw 2 more figures at you that I've learned since being. I had a study done determining the most efficient school districts in the state regarding transportation. The most efficient school district is number 67. We're in the top 5 for efficiency. meaning we are amongst the least efficient transportation systems. For every dollar we receive, we're spending $2.17 to transport our children. Even if we move from number 3 or 4 to number 10, speaking with Amy Morris this morning, we would probably save millions of dollars. So we have to look at operational efficiency as well. And I know that's not sexy when it comes to a child's school location or a parent's ability to transport. But we're going to have to stop believing that we're a 50,000 seat system. We're nearing 100,000, and we're going to be 120,000 before we know it. We need to be prepared in transportation to not only transport the children we have now, but be prepared for that eventual growth as well. So points well taken. Good news is our bus drivers are getting paid much better. Bad news is there's now compression in the system, right? They're getting closer to the most experienced bus drivers. Our teachers' beginning salaries are closer to our most experienced teachers. We got to find some ways to separate that too. And last week at the Florida Superintendent's Conference, I pulled Bill Montford and our new education commissioner, Andy Diaz, aside to say, I appreciate what we've done for beginning salaries since I left Florida 3 years ago. But what are we doing for the upper echelon? What are we doing to help separate our experienced teachers and give them the value that they think that they want to deserve for their time in the classrooms? Lots of challenges ahead of us. Finance committee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You guys are very, very brave. I would think this would be a 7 a.m. big coffee because you're dealing with very serious issues, and there's no easy solution when there's only one fund.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Bernier. I'm Mary Watford, and my question, and you already brought it up a little bit, is a proximity enrollment plan. I would like to know, you said you're progressing on it, how you're going to assure equal education for a very diverse population in different areas of Lee County.
It's a fact of the national policy. I will tell you right now, the proximity plan of the way we're doing our schools right now is not true. I'll be very clear. Franklin Park and Edison Park are right across the street from each other. We build programs in both school buildings to change their and diversify their populations. They have not diversified. So what we're doing right now is not working. We must try something different. Diversity will always be at the top of the list, making sure that we give children opportunity. But we have to be clear that we may not be able to provide all the opportunity, transport all the opportunity that we provided in the past. We can have all the same opportunity. Come from school districts where we were still transporting in Las Vegas to our magnet programs, right? But the choice wasn't as large as this, even amongst the largest districts in the country. Orange County Public Schools, when it got to 175,000, had to make a very difficult decision. They stopped transporting their magnets, and yet the magnets still continue to thrive. We don't have a big infrastructure. We didn't have a large busing system. We tried to involve our local B-Tram, for instance. We couldn't make it work because they couldn't get their drivers to work on time, or if we used the actual system, our children in high school were arriving at about 9 o'clock in the morning. 2 hours late. So yeah, we're going to have that entire discussion. We're also going to have to face the reality of young people who are still going to have choice. I want them to have choice. I want parents to have choice. But I don't believe the time is coming, if it has not come. It's coming where we can't afford to transport.
Thank you.
Carl, do you have a question or a comment that you would like to share?
It was addressed already, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chelsea?
Hi, I'm sorry I'm not in person today. I have COVID, so I was like, I don't know. And that's also why I'm off camera. Yeah, that's also why I'm off camera. Okay, so my name is Chelsea, and this is my first year serving on the advisory committee. I am a CPA and a controller of a local medical organization, and I have 2 children that are enrolled in Lee County School District. My goals on this committee are to, serve long-term and learn more. I think that the longer that you dive into the finances, the more intimately you can understand it, because it's very intricate. It's not something that, you're gonna know all of the nuances of right away, like how the funding works. So I'm still observing. I definitely provide input. My goal is to provide, any analytical insights that I could come across, like when the benefit question came up with insurance and the dissatisfaction, like looking at the exit interview data and then seeing what percentage or what amount of people are actually leaving because that's a primary reason, right? And then what are the costs that present themselves in recruiting new people to replace those people? So what's the cost and what's the savings that we're looking at? And a lot of the things that I've observed are, like people have said, it's these things that the general public and even committee members have questions are on year over year over year. And I think that one thing that I've seen, again, I'm new, I'm still, building my knowledge base. But one thing that I've noted by being both a parent in the school district, right, and now serving on this committee and getting, direct access to information, although it's certainly available publicly for people, they're not here in these meetings. One thing I've noted is that there's a huge gap in education and understanding of the goings on within the school district. Okay, so I'm gonna speak on something that I wasn't present for, but it's just something that I observed. So let's say that there was a new foreign teacher program that I've heard about, right? And I saw that on the interwebs. So now in this day and age, all of, much of the narrative of the public discourse is occurring on social media, in moms groups. That's where it's happening. That's where the communication's happening, primarily. And so if misinformation is out there and gets perpetuated, that's a problem, right? Because it is directly out of line with the district's goal of being transparent to parents and to users of, the community at large who funds the school district. So I do see that there's a huge gap. So with the foreign teacher issue, again, I didn't sit through that presentation. I don't know the specifics, but what I saw going around was that, they're going to hire foreign teachers to replace our teachers and undercut, compensation for teachers. And I know you can't speak in depth on that. I get it. But my perspective, okay, and this is me being unbiased and apolitical, right, is that we, from sitting in these meetings and just knowing what's going on economically, even outside of my service to a school district, is that there's labor shortages across the board. Okay, so we have a problem that we've got an expanding population and we can't meet the needs of the children that are here right now. We've got a short-term problem in management and a long-term problem, right? So those programs, I read the PowerPoint from the school district, for instance, right? And it said that it was specifically for ESE children to ensure that they are continuing to grow, right? And more complicated subject areas and more theoretical concepts in their native language as they're learning English. So that's like one of the benefits. Then I looked at the money. I'm a CPA and I'm a controller, so I looked at the money. And they are offered the same base pay as first-year teachers. So there's no undercutting there. And any district savings, you clearly advertise, right, on that PowerPoint, and you show that it was a federal program or tied federally, it appears, right? And there's a temporary lift of the employer FICA portion, which lowers the cost temporarily. And it's like a reprieve. Okay, so I see what's going on here, but then there's that gap. There's this huge gap, and that's just one example. Why I started, I'm going to try to keep it short, why I initially joined was because my eldest child, there was a real big issue with her receiving services. Okay, I consider myself educated, and I don't mean that to say that elitist. I just mean that, I take the time to learn things in depth and pursue. I'm a high advocate for my child at home, and it took us years to get services, which she was denied. And I had to go outside to get external evaluations and pay, thousands and thousands of dollars to do so, and essentially get a casual degree in special ed. So that being said, that's been addressed. Okay, but what went wrong in so many ways? Well, there's a lot of things to say about that, but again, it goes back to education and public education of everybody, parents, children, especially parents. It seems like a lot of misinformation. I'm not here speaking on my personal situation, which is why I joined and why, I want to serve, because I want to be part of the solutions. But what I perceive is that the district does a great job. You have the data, you communicate things, but there's a gap between you doing that and creating those PowerPoints and then what the public is hearing or what the public is thinking. And so that, or in teaching, but that's just one example. And so, sorry, I know it's not directly finance, but I just think I had to say it, you know, and.
No, it's a great comment, and I thank you for digging in on it.
And I think that, you know, we all say there's a war going on, and the war is that, you know, internally it's hard. I see all perspectives. I try to see everybody's perspective and I believe in neutrality. And so I see teachers' perspectives. You know, they feel overworked. They've got to teach, you know, 30 kids and who all learn differently, who all have different skill sets, especially in elementary level, right? Who all have different needs. And I see that. And I see the parents' perspective. I'm doing everything I can. I'm not getting the help I need, you know. But there's a lot of it boils down to education. And I see that. I did some research prior to joining the advisory committee in terms of just like board research and reading, you know, essential school board books and things of that nature to see how it worked, you know, what successful boards did and didn't do. And one thing I noted was, you know, the higher and again, I'm not an education expert, I'm a CPA, but the higher the level of parental involvement, right, the more successful the school district tends to be. And so if you've got a frustrated parent population or a frustrated public population, then that's going to affect how well they're able to do their role, right, that we want them to do, the parents, you know, the public. And so education helps that. And going against that misinformation and really having a priority of, okay, what messages do we want the public to get? And how are we measuring whether or not they're getting that message? You know, how are we measuring whether or not they're getting these messages and they're understanding what's going on, whether it be the budget, finance, how teachers are compensated, how special education is ran and funded, you know, combating some of those narratives, like what are they doing with the money for these kids that they're supposed to use for the kids and just things of that nature. So I'm sorry, I know I went on a rant, but that is the biggest thing, as I've noticed. And I'm still learning and working and serving on the finance advisory committee, and I love it because I love finance and I love, analytics and all of that. But I'm also a parent, and so that's the thing that I note the most is that there is some misinformation and the district has gotten on social media. I know as a parent early on, a few years ago, they started that email campaign where you sign up through Focus and every parent must have their data put in by a certain, date so that they can make sure that some communications are getting out. But after a while, that filters out. People aren't getting that. They're not reading all of that. So, what messages are the most crucial and how are we ensuring that those messages are being received? So we bridge the gap of understanding.
It's a very good question. First and foremost, it is not replacing teachers. It is designed to take the vacancies that we know we're going to have on day one and potentially have 23 teacher positions that would have been vacant be filled with experienced, certified, well-educated individuals who are coming to America for a 3 to 5 year period of time on a J1 visa. I did it in Orlando, I did it in Las Vegas, and we're doing it here before I even arrived. So this was something the school district on its own had sought out as another opportunity. We are going to have to be very creative and way outside of the box to start recruiting. We are going, college of education enrollments are dropping. People are not choosing the profession. And we owe some responsibility to that in our own schools and our own responses to our young people by making being a school teacher cool again. It is a great career. It is a great opportunity to change the world and change the future and change trajectories of young people. And I think our teachers from the COVID time and before that are just tired. And all of us are probably not the best recruiters of the next generation at this point. But we have to begin to start thinking about how we can begin to move forward and raise some prestige back to this profession that we entrust our most precious resource to. We turn over our firstborn to our lastborn, and we expect and we honor people do a great job, but do we? And I think that's the piece of it. And part of it is, do we tell a better story? And I would say across the country, school districts are having trouble telling their story. I don't have all the answers to that. I do not have a marketing degree. You say you're not an educator. I am not a marketer. I did not take any marketing. I did take some finance in college. I have a finance minor as well. But from the history of finance and education teacher, my finance day, I need some marketing help. And if people have that experience, that's an area on that committee or that group that can help steer that aspect. We have to be better at telling our story. There's no question about it.
Diana, do you have anything you'd like to ask or comment on?
No, I think, most things were addressed. Anything that I had a question on, he answered pretty clearly.
Okay, let me move this over to Mr. Tuttle. Hold on.
Actually took notes from my talk, usually do that. Good afternoon. I just wanted to touch on a couple of topics I thought may actually assist you. Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me? We spoke about the ability to pay for the benefits. One suggestion would be increasing the grant department, or we're having them work on raising funds for programs where we can juggle dollars from one program to help pay for the benefits, because we had discussed that as, you know, the benefit funding could become a problem. But if we're able to get more grants to cover some of the other items, we could use those funds, move them around in the budget to cover the benefits. I also wanted to ask, we've seen for 3 years, we talk proximity report, and for 3 years it gets postponed. My suggestion would be to put a date on it, put a date on each stage of it, and that way by the end of the 22-23 school year, everybody knows that it's going into effect. Whatever it may look like then, even if it's only a partial rollout at that time. This committee's always dealt with everything from the debt to the budget to can we streamline the process, can we help save money? Moving forward, we should consider different things and learn from other school systems. One such instance, and if we held events, there's 4 different quadrants basically of our district, the east, the west, the north, the south. Why couldn't we do an event in each one? Let's just call it a Super Sunday, a week or 2 before the end of the school year. A giant event sponsored with the community as a public-private partnership. All the funds that are generated from this event can go to the classroom teachers for supplies. I know the district gives an amount, but if this went to, I'm talking even the nurses, every single department in these schools, to go to the employees for supplies, because many of the employees actually are coming out of pocket for the supplies, for the classrooms, the nurses to pick up other things for their, you know, their room, for the music teacher, all different parts of the school systems. It's not actually getting the funds that they need. And this would be money generated by the community, our students and their families. Just different ways of thinking outside the box. Events to bring about more unity, because that's one of the biggest problems we have as a country and in this area, is the lack of unity. This may actually work. I just wanted to leave you with those and hope that I do get a chance for a meeting with you at some point. And I pretty much left it up to everybody else, but hopefully that just gives you a little food for thought. You can respond or not. Thanks.
We have a community engagement office of 1 person. Is that Adam? Malloy?
Sorry, Carl?
Oh, yes, is that Adam Malloy? Yeah, that's Adam Malloy, you are correct. You only have 1 person, folks, 2? As far as I know, Adam's the only person with the official title. There may be more that assist Adam, but I believe Adam's the one with the title. Oh, I lost you. Okay. I'm back. Can you hear me now? I think, no. No, you lost me. Look what I pushed you over. Oops. I'm sorry.
You think, no, I'm the
There
same.
you go. Okay, I'm back. All right.
Mr. Baxter, I'm the same person who still doesn't unmute. It's been 2 years of being online and Zoom meetings. I still can't always my.
I know, we live by, it's a new hybrid, okay. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome, sir.
Anybody else?
Glenn, did you have anything to add? I know you had something.
Don't turn it around.
She's gonna hand you the mic so you can hold it up to your mouth because we can't hear when it's down.
Okay, Dr. Vernier, I know you have talked before about, there she goes.
I wanted to see who's talking to it.
I think he knows who I am.
He's not
Okay,
under
I don't
the-
like the tone the way you anyway. Can you have talked to us and on the dais about community involvement and some of the things that you want to do. So maybe you can share that. You had talked about like the community town halls, and so if you can address that to them.
Member Gittens is talking a little bit about a number of different things, sometimes just one-on-ones, community meetings, sometimes it's information at the dais. There's a critical component that I believe is missing from the school district, and that is true. So that goes to that idea of telling our story. Telling our story requires us to be out in the neighborhood telling our story and engaging with the public, not just in meetings at 5100 Colonial or 2885 Colonial, but out there, at a school, out down in Benita Springs, over at the Cape, down maybe all the way in Pine Island. Because we have learners everywhere within a school district. And there is a process that I'm going to use as an entry plan that's going to include town hall meetings, chances to meet with parents, opportunities to meet with educators, opportunity to meet with classified staff, including, support professionals, different term, different district. Support professionals here, bus drivers, paraprofessionals, other individuals. And they don't have to be long, drawn out, difficult conversations. It's about pacing through as you try to listen to learn. Pacing through some really simple questions. What's working? What isn't working? I love the last one. I love the one that people say, what keeps you up at night? Because for a parent, what keeps you up at night is very different than potentially than being a member of this community. Being a business owner or a business leader in this community, that what may keep you up at night is different than being a member of this community. So that's one aspect, but a listening event and an entry plan is just that, it's an entry plan. The commitment for me is to continue to do it. It's to continue to be out in the community. I did it in Las Vegas. People, when I started, they thought I was crazy. They're like, we don't do that. We don't go out working. You don't know what your community is thinking unless you go out and spend time with them. They don't all come to school board. I have a Post-it note on my computer that reads 818,889. I love doing this to my cabinet, so I won't do it to you. Kelly, you can't answer the question tomorrow. I'll ask my cabinet tomorrow, what is that number? That number is the number of residents that live in the county. We have to engage more than 20. We have to engage more than a community. We have to go out. If I talk to 3 people, great. If I talk to 300, amazing. But I just have to keep being available so I can get the information from the various voices. The students, parents, business community, the teachers, the support professionals, principals, the district leaders, board members. We need to get to them, not them get to me. And that's a vital aspect of my approach. It was in Orange County, it will be was in Clark County, it will be here as well. It's a matter of engaging with the community in their locations around topics so that they can feedback and help inform decision moving forward. One of the other things that I would like to have, and it's a very specific name, so I chose the words carefully. I'd like to have a superintendent's advisory committee. I'd like to have a group of 8 to 10 people to meet with me when I ask them to meet or on a regular basis, so that I could have advisement. I'm not asking them to make the decision, but I wanna have some advisement and have them go take some of my ideas out and see what they can find out when they come back, have some resolution or some information. Sorry, I feel like I'm interrupting someone.
I think
Okay,
Jim has
so
a
that's a big piece. That's a big piece of a very consistent process. We are underway with our equity guide. Our equity meetings start with community engagement. What my staff told me when I got here was we would have one meeting and then we'd go to the board. That is not community engagement. That is, we have a plan. This is our plan. This is the only plan we have. Please come to a meeting and tell us it's wonderful, and then we'll take it to a board meeting. That is not community engagement. Community engagement. Community engagement is where you present something, and people get a chance to feedback on it. And you morph it and change it in order. It's never gonna be perfect, not everybody's gonna like it. But that's how you engage.
And can I just say, oh, I'm sorry, Carl, did I cut?
No, he's a person, he's a.
Oh, okay. Okay, one other point on that. This is the finance committee. And, you know, we've got CPAs and you know, educated people on here that know about finance and all of that. But how do we mesh getting out to more of that 818,000 and explain to them, because I think what's missing now is if we go out there and we speak to the community and we talk about certain things that they understand, you know, if you say the achievement gap or something, then maybe they have something to say about that. But have we really broken it down, the finance piece of it, to let them know how they can be involved so that they understand it? We talk in edukeys, and I've said that forever, and it's difficult when you speak in edukeys to break it down for the rest of that 818,000 to understand. But I think, to me, that's the nugget of finding out, how can we let them know what their part and what they can contribute to the finance committee, to the, you know, to DAC, to curriculum, whatever. That's, I think, the nugget that we have to figure out. What is it for that parent that is working 2 jobs, and you say finance committee and they go, duh, what is that? And what is it about?
We get our communities out of the building. I know the last 2 years have been challenging at best. But we have to start bringing our dialogue out in the community so that we can be part of it. You can't engage the community, you know, you can't engage the community. I know they were invited, I know it's a public meeting, I know we're being recorded, but you can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't engage the community from these 4 square walls and surround my desk. I can't do it. I've got to get out there and see. I would hope that by example, some other people will start to say, hey, why don't we do some of that stuff? Why don't we take our community on the road? Why don't we look at 4 regional high school communities? My fingers are crossed because my crystal ball was broken March 2 years ago. And I thought, yeah, we have a few sniffles and all this could go away. It hasn't. But I still really want to move towards next year being a start of the new normal. It may not be perfect, but we really have to get back into business and doing our business. And with the health and safety that's under our employees and under our kids so that they can be successful.
Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say, but I do believe that we had talked at one point about having meetings in different parts of the county. I'm not sure if I remember when, but some of these committee meetings, like you're talking about getting outside of the 4 walls of, you know, Colonial, can we have once a year, a quarter, whatever it is, but to have a meeting in another part of the county? for one of these, advisory boards. So that if people can come, they come and see what it's all about. Just a thought.
Interject, Gwen. I'll jump up. I just wanted to interject, as chairman of this committee, I've requested several times that we hold joint meetings with the other chairs, or we've requested that they come join our committee for a joint meeting on specific topics. That may be something else that you may wanna push down the line, or even on your superintendent's, on your idea, just to add to it. It's just an idea to put everyone from all the committees basically together by, if nothing else, having a chair, a vice chair, or put all the committees together and let's see, break into our groups and see what we can come up with. That's what we're here for, is to try to assist. We volunteer our time to try for the betterment of the system, not to bring it down, to build it up. That's just what I'm saying.
Beautiful, I support that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I want to be respectful of Dr. Bernier's time. He has 2 more minutes with us before he has to go. Any last things before he goes to find himself an assistant?
Just thank him for his time. Thank him for his time.
Good luck.
Well, it's not, no, that's not the way that was said, that didn't sound like good luck, that sounded like good luck.
My question is, what I like to know, Dr. Mayor, you're doing the second interview, do you not have a staff that does that? I mean, are you just doing family, main selection committee? I'm just curious.
I do screen. So what I believe is hiring is the most important process. I know how we say we hire, so I'm also trying to teach at the same time, sir, as to what I believe are the proper hiring steps for somebody like me. I'm not about just finding a body, I need to find the right person. So yes, I was reviewing all the resumes separately from the committee, and I deemed, from my view, and what I was looking for, I found some things. The committee that was working independently of me, we cross-pollinated that information. They then conducted 2 rounds of interviews. They got down to 4 candidates. I looked at who those people were. They went with another round. Now I'm meeting the final 2. Because the decision ultimately is mine. But I feel like along the way, my committee's kept me involved with who these people are. I've been able to talk to some, in this particular case, I've been able to talk to some of the organizations. I can tell you that both people they currently work for are deeply disturbed about it. So I know I've done a good job of finding the right people. Now I want one-on-one with me. I want to hear about why they hired a person.
That's correct, very good. Right. I understand your staff. I understand it because I'm in the middle of that process too, that's why we went out, got to get her, but, well, I think you're good, you're on the right road.
Yeah, hiring's a tough thing, it's
It is.
it's a difficult decision, you wanna make sure you make it right, because I'm sorry, off the top of my head, Chelsea was talking about the expense of hiring the wrong person or having to place. You hire the wrong person, it's a tough road to walk, so.
Sure, caution.
So thank you so much, Dr. Bernier, for coming and talking with us. I know everyone's enjoyed it, so we do
Thanks, Kelly,
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it. I appreciate it as well, look forward to working with you more. And if I had known you guys were down the hall, I would have been down, I'm sorry, I was told it was a system meeting.
We do it both ways, so that's okay.
When I get done with my 2 candidates, if I have some time and you're still here, I will be down this time.
You'll never find them.
We really thought you got lost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn this back over to Daryl, hold on.
You mean I gotta work again?
We can't hear you.
You're not really.
I'm not loud enough?
You are
No.
very low.
Talk to
Sorry.
us like you're talking to your kids or something.
I talked in this voice on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think this is getting hello? It's them.
Hit the blue button, there's a button on the top, it's a power button, and hold it down, and a blue light will come on. And it should come back up.
Hello?
Is the blue light on? For a
Okay.
second.
Hello?
You may have lost it. Oh, there you go, we're back.
Hello?
There you go, we're back.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to read over the minutes? We're gonna resume this meeting. And this is dead. It's absolutely dead now. Have we had a chance to read over the minutes?
Why don't you move over here, cause that way they can hear you.
Whatever you want.
I'll move all my garbage. You're in French, I know.
Yeah, they're having trouble on there hearing you, so that's why
Not a problem.
I just wanna make sure they can hear you.
We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a first with Ken and a second with Mary. Anybody have any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Diana?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries, 3-7-0. I don't see any public comment, so we're gonna go right back to you, to the board member report. I got a whole list of questions.
Okay, so I can make that mine quick, right?
They're all for you.
Oh, Lord. Okay, basically, first, I give kudos to the committee, and Daryl represented you very well at our meeting and asked the relevant pertinent questions. And to make sure that, my goal is to make sure that what you discuss in your questions and issues are bubbled up so that they are taken care of and not just put on the agenda. As far as the board is concerned, right now, I think our main thing is getting, tying the knots and getting entrenched with the new superintendent. And always with change, there is change, and there are things that we deal with. I was going to suggest that everyone go back on YouTube. Can you guys on there hear me okay? Okay. I suggest you go to YouTube, Me Schools TV, and look at our briefing meeting yesterday. And the superintendent gave an overview of his plan, what was it called? I forget what he called it, but kind of like his first 100 days type plan. And you can take a look at that, see where he's going, some of the things that he would like to do. There are some positions that we approved, and we approved them last night.
Job description.
Job description, no, we didn't approve them last night. But we briefed them, so in the next couple of meetings, we will have a couple of new job descriptions. And all of that was on that briefing meeting. So if you kind of want an idea, the direction we're headed and the road we're on, that would be a very good one to listen to that section of the superintendent's presentation. We are in a time of election time. So in another month or so, we may be looking at changes on the board. In fact, we will be looking at changes on the board because there are 2 members that will not be returning. And that is Betsy Vaughn, who's District 6, which is county-wide, is up for election, and she is not returning. So we will definitely have someone new in that position. The other one is Mary Fisher. And no, it's not turned out, well, kind of sort of. But
Been around a while.
she's been around a while. But I think she was grandfathered in or whatever with all of the changes to time. We do have the term limit thing now, but anyway. So Mary Fisher's position, District 1, I believe it is, but it's Cape Coral and Sanibel in that area. And since she won't be returning, we definitely will have another new board member. So we have to keep in mind that 2 seats are gonna flip over regardless. And who's going to have them is It's up to the voters. The other 3 seats are my seat for District 5, Debbie Jordan for District 4, and who else? Because there were 4 of us.
That's what we were.
That would be 4? Yeah, that would be 4. Right, so the 2 that aren't coming back, and Debbie Jordan and myself, are up for re-election. So, keeping all of that in mind, there may be, some flip arounds that may happen. I love what Chelsea was saying, and thank you for your comments, Chelsea, because I mentioned this at the board meeting yesterday. People are getting on the board members by, oh, this board has chosen these books, and they're this, and they're that. And I was trying to explain, what people don't understand is where our purview ends. We have certain things that we are responsible for as far as the board. And yes, the final action meeting approval of books comes to us. But those books that are presented to us have to be on a list that has already been approved and vetted at the Florida Department of Education. So they create the list, they vet the books, they vet the companies, it comes down to the districts choose off of that list. There have been districts that have gone off the list, but it still has to go back and be vetted by the DOE. So I really think transparent education of our community is so needed. It is so necessary for people to understand whose job is what, how we do this, how this is done. And I think as a district, we've said those things over the years, but we've said them at a level that people have not really comprehended. And nowadays, in my opinion, this is a Gwynism, that if people don't understand something, they make it up. And they will say, oh, I know, it must be this. And then we have all this turmoil of having to go back and explain, no, it's not this, it's that. Communication is so much a key. This is why I'm so excited to hear Dr. Grenier say about the talking tours and going around the district. And the only way you're gonna solve problems is that if you sit down and talk to people and help them understand. So that's kind of out there right now. Let me see what else is major. The general things. I love what he was saying too about the 818,000. We were in a breakout group. We just came back from the Florida School Board Association conference, and that was one of the things that they talked about. Another one that they talked about that was really important to me was how we look at what we do. And this gentleman was a keynote speaker, and he had a breakout session. But the crux of his topic was what is our is it not optimal, what's the word for it? Starts with an O and I just forgot it. But anyway, it's outcome, that's it. What is our outcome? And my brain works pictorially. So I immediately saw in the center, the outcome is what? Student success. And everything comes out from that. If it's finance, if it's, curriculum, if it's books, whatever it is, everything leads back to student success. And if we can figure a way to visualize that and make that actually real to people, I think that it will help us tremendously. So, a lot of good things came out of the conference, and we're trying to get some of them instituted here. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. So hit me with the questions.
You're first.
Well, no, but I mean, you mentioned Chelsea, and I think one of the most valuable things she said was that's where the communication is occurring, is on social media.
Yes.
And we talked about all these speaking tours and the amount of time you guys spend correcting misinformation and misunderstandings. it seems to me that maybe we ought to consider having a social media manager on staff that would just all day long just put tweets out, direct tweets, participate in social media platforms.
I'm not laughing at you.
He's not wrong, because what I said was, I told them at the meeting yesterday when I stood up there, I had somebody call me, I don't wanna name the individual that works for the district, and said to me, you need to jump on this thing, and I jumped on Zoom and they showed me, there were 186 people in a forum in one conversation about benefits. And they were talking how the one woman couldn't get this procedure, they couldn't get their kids to a doctor because they couldn't afford the insurance, it would break the family. The things were just, and no one
And see-
responds to it, all they did was go back and forth and empathize with each other and discuss why this is, things are so bad here. And that's why when I came forward, I tried to make it positive, I understood I came forward with a major negative, that I was trying to
No,
make
you
it
were
positive.
good, you presented it very, very well. Here's the thing, and we had a workshop on social media as well. And they were talking about, the reason that we were laughing is that right now we are in a legal situation about social media. And I know you've heard about it, so I won't bring it all up. But here's the thing about social media. Those 186 people, I would love to see 20 of them
I asked them all
at
to
the
come.
school board meeting. And I would like to see them get an email campaign where they send to their representatives or all of the board members or the superintendent their stories. Because if we were to get 186 comments,
Can we get something done?
it would get more done. Not that we're not looking at the issue, but 186 or 500 emails or whatever with actual factual things that are happening kind of bubbles it up a little bit. So,
They're not gonna do that, because that's what she said.
They're afraid.
This is where the communication
yeah,
is
but
occurring.
that's
not
what
occurring
the
on email.
problem with social media is, people can hide.
Yeah, but you can't say that's what the problem with social media is, because that's what social media is, and it's not gonna change, it's only gonna get more prevalent.
No,
So we don't like emails and people coming to meetings and this and that, but that's not how people communicate nowadays.
Right,
They're
and
keyboard warriors.
Now, I'm not saying that somebody should get into a tit for tat on social media back and forth with 186 people, no. But I think we ought to have somebody monitoring all the social media discussions, and then they can put a tweet out just to correct the information, say, no, this is what this real story is on this, okay, or that's, and you don't wanna get into a tit for tat, because it's
Well,
legal,
let me-
you're gonna
She's
legally
saying
be.
exactly.
but let me tell you what,
She's
the
just
workshop
like-
that we had was done by someone that was previous FBI that did social media. And in his experience, he was saying that you really have to be careful in responding. Something you have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Absolutely, no question.
Because you can give what you think is a simplistic answer, and they just want that red meat, and it goes on and on. Now, we do have social media presence, the district does. I mean, it pops up on mine all the time, but it's more informational rather than asking you, what do you think? It goes back to, we're going to do this, or we're doing this, and it's really great. It's not asking for feedback. And maybe the piece that's missing is asking for feedback. But once we open that gate, it's,
Yeah, I'm just saying we should be aware of what's being thrown around out there, so
And
that
we
it
are.
can be addressed,
and I think,
and maybe in a more organized fashion.
let me tell you, and I'll just be very factual, as a person running for office that has 2 Facebooks, Instagram, Twitter, everything else that you can have. There is no appeasing some people. And when you start down that rabbit hole, because then you get to a point where they say something that is really, really out there and wrong, and technically, I get in trouble for sanctioning them and taking down what they say. And the same thing happens for the district. If the district puts something out there and someone puts a negative that's just really, really wrong, we really need to find another way to answer it, because if they come back with a negative and something that's really wrong, we can't take that post down. It's up there.
Gwen, is there any way that a forum can be sponsored where it's well facilitated? It would have to be well facilitated, but a forum just on benefits or, you can even do that online.
So I like the idea of maybe doing some Zoom meetings or whatever if we can't, get out and face to face with people. And I'm sure it can be done. It's the animal of social media is ravenous right now. And it's difficult to manipulate and maneuver through. We are in trouble right now because we were monitoring what was going on.
How do corporations do it? How does a corporation like Procter & Gamble manage social media? Somehow they're doing
We have people that their job is to manage.
it. And then the same legal
That's what they do all
issues,
day
not
long.
maybe so complicated, but.
And if they have a question, they can call the legal hotline. I mean, we have school board attorneys. You didn't sit in, you weren't there for the chairs meeting at the time, Debbie was there, but during the chairs meeting, they came up with Kelly brought forward last time about the benefits. The attorneys are, I haven't seen that.
Right.
And at least we had somebody on staff that was there that said, wait a second, I need to see this. I don't know where it went from there, and I'm assuming he said he was digging into it. But if there's a problem, we have somebody that we can pick up the phone and call.
Right.
With the support.
And the other issue.
And they may need to, they may need an attorney just for that, I don't know. But it may be beneficial for the system moving forward.
So I just want to remind you too, we have 4 attorneys, one is ending her employment at the end of this month. So just because that one attorney had not seen it does not mean that one of the other attorneys had not. So
Exactly.
just
But
that
that's
one
saying
had
it's
not.
people, that an attorney is available for us to pick up the phone, or for someone in social media with Ken's idea, that they could pick up the phone and question what they're saying, or if they would be going too far, this is something I need to stay away from, if they're questioning.
So it kind of comes back to a process of communication. How do we get communication from everyone else? How do we disseminate it back out to everyone that may not have even asked the question? And there's so many legal things right now, including the thing I was telling you about with social media, where we can get in trouble if somebody puts something nasty and we take it down. Then we get sanctioned. The other thing is the sunshine law. And no, I couldn't have been in the meeting with Debbie because
That's why I
the
let you know what
sunshine law.
happened, yeah.
We can't be in the same place, and it drives me crazy because senators that are sitting in Tallahassee and in Washington can go have a drink, smoke a cigar, and talk about the laws all they want. But we can't discuss student achievement because anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering if, we have a new superintendent, so we can kind of like maybe try to go crazy and maybe, at least for the first 100 days, but maybe to create few different approaches or different focus groups. Try town hall, try Zoom conference, try Facebook Live at one of the school events, and see what pulls people, see what feedback is generated, at what event media will show up. We wouldn't know until we try. We can discuss pros and cons of different approaches of how to manage things, but unless we try in small groups with small costs, we wouldn't know. And maybe, town hall might work good for the benefits because a lot of people will come and they will scream, but nothing will be in writing or not much will be in writing. But for other things, it might be better to put it on the Facebook or Zoom or do Facebook Live or school TV. Again, maybe we just try different things. See what works for what.
And listening to what you're saying, I'm visually thinking of the different areas. Now, there are some areas of Lee County where you have a town hall and people have the ability and desire and they will come out. In others, if they're working people, Facebook or Zoom may be the best way for them. So I agree with you. We need to have, we're gonna have a quarterly one. Okay, then it's gonna be Zoom this time over here, in person over here, then we rotate it. But those are some of the ideas that we can definitely use.
I feel like, I think it's great that he wants to have out into the public town hall meetings. Boy, that's a lot of work, a lot of time. And I'm just thinking there's maybe better way to leverage that.
I have for the past 2.5 years done a Facebook Live once a week, every week. And sometimes I may have 5 people and sometimes I'll have 100 people or 200 people. And it depends on what they wanna say. And I really do like the idea, I mean, we're in the social media age. But when somebody gets on there and they wanna curse me out and whatever, I just have to smile and go, okay, well, that's your opinion. I cannot block them or delete them at that time.
You're not texting your husband, get out the bottle of vodka.
Yeah. Oh, honey, it's in the right there.
It's in the bag, you know?
If they get up at a board meeting and curse you out, but they get thrown out.
Well, I tell you,
That's too bad.
I don't have the bouncers on my Facebook.
We have our phones too, I think there's so many times.
Oh, I know. I think the whole thing is we have to realize, and each of us has to be a committee of one to make that difference. To, be on those social media groups and show how we can communicate and how we can't talk. You have some more questions?
Mary, did you have anything?
No, I just thought we need to open it up more. And why I said forum is that allows people to get together, but also you do need good facilitation.
Yes.
You can't have just a free for all.
Right.
I can find out for Chelsea, so I know she has something.
Chelsea, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, just in comment to what you stated as a marketing expert or committee or, communication, community engagement committee. If that was the case, I think to Daryl's point, that would be a really important place to have members from other areas, other committees or segments of, with expertise that can help the community engagement committee with the dialogue to, the messages that are going to go out in the community. Like and I'm sure everybody here has a lot of history with explaining complex financial concepts in layman's terms, right? So we have expertise in that, and I'm sure that other people have expertise when it comes to education or testing and special education. And so having the people that are experts in those areas that already have that ability to translate messages from a high level to an easy to digest level is a good idea when it comes to community engagement. You've got to have the expertise married with the message and the messenger,
So here, Chelsea, it's interesting you say that too. And here's what I'm thinking about. I come from a corporate training background with Bank of America. And the thing I think about is having like an annual almost retreat for the board advisory groups. And in that, all the different groups would be together and then have a certain issue or whatever and then split off into groups, not homogenous groups, but, mixed, and come up with some solutions. And I think that would also show everyone how much what this committee does and that committee does all focuses back on the center and where their importance is. So what do you think about something like that?
So in some ways, what I was actually pushing for the last couple of years off and on was, let's get either get the committees together, even if we did it in the board chambers, and you brought the committees together once a year, twice a year, and put one person from each committee in each corner, but so we nominated 4 people to show up to it, and just address different issues or have a conversation and see what they come up with.
Well, why not
It's just an
have all of them?
idea to move forward. I mean, you can. The problem is, are we gonna allow every committee, if each committee came in with, let's say, 4 people, we would have, 20, 25 people, that we'd be able to have a big conversation, everyone might be able to get a chance to speak, and one or two people wouldn't dominate the whole thing. That's why I'm suggesting less
what you're
people.
saying, yeah.
That's my only reason for suggesting less
Cause
people.
I'm thinking,
Then
you know,
everybody there at once, it's gonna get dominated by the few. Usually a few leaders take over a situation and it is what it is.
that's not.
And you know I'm not wrong, it happens. Yeah. We don't want, that's not why we would be there, is for, someone to step up to be a leader. They would be there for the conversation, to facilitate and make things for progress.
Okay, for example, putting on my teacher's hat, we have had a thing called a gallery walk. And there would be in a big room, and you've got your papers up along the wall, your post-it papers like those or whatever, and you've got an issue. And you travel at certain times, the bell rings or whatever happens. And the group that you're with, which could be a mixed group from different committees, and you go to this problem and you talk about it and you put down one word suggestions as to what to do. Then the bell rings, you go to the next one.
That's the same thing that I'm talking about.
Right, so that type of movement, but thinking on your feet, and then taking each one of those and you bring that down to one group takes this and one group.
Basically a committee retreat, a 3 to 4 hour retreat,
Where you
that could be
work out
facilitated,
problems, yeah.
let's say by the superintendent, he's there, he sets it up. Here's your problems, each time, each group goes to one area, here it is, you write down, talk it out, what solutions you find, one to the next at the end. When it's coffee, then they present, what we came up with on each one. And that's the end, and the superintendent takes all the paperwork and he's able to go over it and he has solutions, or he doesn't.
Well, and then,
I'm assuming he'd have solutions.
cause then you can take one of those as well, and then you assign that to a group to say, okay, this is what came out of this topic. So now put this together. So we make it stand.
Yeah, the group breaks, we did a lot of that too.
Right,
Mixers,
Yeah.
breakfast, whatever, call it whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Once a year, twice a year.
They did that at the charter schools actually, when I was on the board there. That was one of the things we did.
Informal enough for people to show up,
right,
but
informal,
with,
right.
informal, but with topics to discuss with groups, mixed groups and everything.
So how do you decide in a committee that has 15, 20 people who goes?
It's voted by the committee members.
And
So not everyone's gonna wanna go.
Yeah.
it'll be a volunteer, because
Yeah.
you're probably gonna pick a Saturday when people can go, and you're probably going to have like a one-day retreat. There'll be a lot of people that won't wanna participate or not able to
Some
participate.
people won't come off of Zoom.
True.
I mean, those people, we can't do that for. Because we need the people to show up. Some
Okay,
people, I mean, I've learned,
so let me suggest this, maybe for you ladies as
things
well.
are coming.
What if everybody gives your ideas or whatever, emails Daryl and says, here's how we make it work? You put together some type of just.
You can do just the chairs too. I mean, that's a way to do it. Chair and vice chair.
Well, yeah, but I think. Okay, thank you.
Or if you
Thank
email
you.
to Kelly or Barb and then send that over to
Well,
the
I-
chair.
The reason I'm saying not just the chairs and the vice chairs, because you want maybe the chair, the vice chair, and 2 other members. Because you want other members to feel like
Yes.
they are a part of this as well. Okay, so if
I have
you
a couple of
wanna,
questions for you.
okay,
I know everyone, we're very short-handed.
okay,
I just wanted to either get the questions answered or facilitate them for the next meeting to get those answered.
okay.
I got 3 questions, I'll make them nice and sweet. I want the same questions I asked last time. Do we have an update on the FTFP money per student? Were there any legislative changes that can be discussed, or even just a very short brief? Again, you can bring this next time if you don't have it today. I just wanna make sure this is addressed before the next FAC group takes over in September. I think we should discuss this and see if we can assist in any way. And my last one is, has our legislative priorities changed? So what is our per student funding change? what legislative changes took place out of the last meetings that would affect the district and students specifically, and our legislative priorities. And I know Kelly may or may not be able to answer some of them.
I can speak on a couple of them kind of highlighting right now. So the FEFP per student increased a lot this year. Saying that though, there are criteria to the money that was given to us. So I don't know if you all know, this also has with legislative changes. You know, the federal government was giving years, a certain number, I think it was like 5 years to get to $15 an hour. During this legislative process this year, the legislators decided that school districts must get to $15 an hour by October 1st of this coming year. So by October 1st, 2020.
Every employee is a minimum of 15.
Minimum 15, no matter what you're doing, part-time, whatever, you're $15 an hour. So that's a major hit for us, right? And so even though the cost per student is up, there's a lot of costs going with that.
And I'm trying to mandate.
Well, they're gonna say they funded it because they gave us a big increase, but the big increase was to cover that. So along with that, not only do I have to get everybody to $15 an hour, right? So my custodial staff is currently under $15 an hour. I have a lot of custodial staff, right? I don't remember what their minimum was, but say their minimum was $14.25. Now I have somebody who may have been here for 8 years, it's at 15 now, right now. Now, this person who's been here a year is gonna go to 15. Am I gonna do anything for this person who was here 8 years, or am I gonna leave them sitting where the person that just went to there was? So, yeah, so we have a compression that we have to deal with. So that compression, in order to keep morale up, you wanna deal with that compression, right? You don't want somebody who's been here for 8 years to make the same thing as somebody who's been here a year. So you wanna deal with that compression issue that's happening. And so that, you raise those positions up, but so now I've had this position that, as a clerk typist that is making $15.25, there was a $2 gap before. Do I make that another $2 gap? That's quite pricey. So we have to, all of those things, by October 1st, we have to have into place for that. So it's very pricey, right? We
It's funny,
have,
because that's what the fry cook at McDonald's makes, is 15 an hour. And it's a bad thing because it's gonna cost us, the district, money, but it's a good thing. Then you look at the bad side going, wow, so they're gonna make the same as the fry cook. You know, and I'm not knocking the fry cook at McDonald's, I'm just saying, wow,
Yeah.
for all those years of service.
yeah, then we have the FRS increase, so the Florida retirement system gave us another increase, large increase, so that's another hit to us. And then, there's things we wanna do for our employees. We wanna focus on benefits, we wanna focus on salaries, so that's a lot of stuff. So while they gave us a nice increase, they gave us nice rules to follow that go along with that is gonna cost us.
I have a question regarding the people below 15. What percentage are we talking about? What kind of numbers are we talking?
Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. And actually, I was meeting with, because I have a staff member working on it, and the compression kind of confused her, and I was starting to work with her on it when I had to go to a meeting. So I'm gonna get back onto that, because I need to have those numbers. But it's a small number, a small group of positions, but they're groups that are large numbers. So our custodians, I believe our site workers were under there, our food service workers, so those are high.
Too, they were right on the board.
Paraprofessionals in the bargaining process last year, for next year, we already raised them to $15.25 an hour. So we had already taken care of our paraprofessionals, so that they were already up above that number, or they would have been, but we took care of that during the bargaining session already.
Which one listened to you? So,
Yeah.
sure.
So there's a lot of that happens. I don't know the exact percent, but I'm definitely gonna have to have that number and stuff too, so.
Does the school have do they have like a pay grade ranges for
So-
different positions?
So we used to be on pay grade and step, and we are going off of that onto the market rate. So it's a different way to do it. The positions though that are below the 15 are most of them are still on the pay grade and step, range. So, and unless you're pretty new in the district, like longtime people may have already been well above that 15, so it's those, you know, the lower ones that are doing it. So it's just, you know, we're working off the pay grade and step and moving on to market. And so we're kind of like transitioning, so we've got some on, some off. It's no one set.
Not only do you, but, you know, when I was with DOE, it was a discussion about, making people angry, you know. But ultimately, you have to bite the bullet,
Yes.
and you gotta give people with a livable wage. And the longer you wait, you're always gonna have the issue of people that are mad because someone else making what they need. So it's a reality too.
And I know we're gonna hear it. Huh?
The term living wage has become very frustrating. Because everyone wants to trust it to you. And what is a living wage for you may be different for me, may be different for Barb, or any of us in this room. So the term living wage has become a problem.
And the other thing they did this year was the district cost differential. You know, they take your students times your base student allocation times your district cost differential, which is supposed to be the cost of living in your area. They reduced ours this year. And so, and they have some formula, they said they did it, and I know they had been talking about it in past years, it didn't go through, and this year they just kind of passed it through. So in doing that, while they lowered it, this year they gave us a reprieve and gave us a hold harmless, but that's probably gonna be for 1 year. So, and then it'll go away, and then I'm gonna have to deal with that next year. So that's, you know, one of those things that, you know, in the back of my head, I'm going, that's non-reoccurring at this point, so I have to be careful when I use that, and it's like a $2 million hit to us. So those are all things that, you know, we have to deal with. Last year, in the current year, the state put a, and I'm very thankful, they put what they call a student, what do they call it? Some kind of state allocation reserve or student allocation reserve. And so in doing that, we didn't get hit with a proration. Because remember, the state doesn't have enough money to, if the student count is higher than they anticipated, they don't have enough money to pay us what they said they were gonna pay us for the students that showed up. And so we get a proration. Well, because they had that in the budget this year, they have the proration, and then they have the offsetting, they gave us money to cover the proration for this year. They did not put that in the budget for next year, so we can count on a proration, I'm sure, next year. So there's just a lot of pieces in there that go. I'm working on a presentation for the board, and after I present to the board, then we can definitely go over that in here as well.
So your 3 questions. The first one was the legislative changes. Kelly gave you a really good idea of what that's about.
But you made a comment when I asked last time. I'd like to find out, because I know there were a little bit of other changes recently. I know there were some things that probably couldn't have been discussed during the last meeting. For the next meeting, if you would, please address these 3 things as best as you can.
Right. Well, I have, besides the answers Kelly has, I have answers from the workshops that we did at FSBA. So I can add those. Your per student funding, I think she addressed that as well. The legislative agenda, again, I think the briefing meeting yesterday is something you need to go watch. We did talk about our legislative agenda. There were like 10 items on there. So the discussion was whether we should shorten it and what should be taken off. And there was a long discussion about that. So I will just refer you to Lee Schools TV on YouTube to watch the briefing on June 14th. But 2 of the things on there that everybody pretty much agreed that would stay, we have something about the innovation school that we're looking to do with a partnership with FGCA. And there was a whole presentation on that at the same, I'm telling you, this briefing was the one to see, because it has answers to a lot of questions. So we had the presentation about the Innovation School, so if you wanna find out what that is even about, then you can go and watch that. So the Innovation School is one of our legislative asks. The career technical piece is another ask of the legislators to help fund more of those. That's something near and dear to my heart, because I have said forever that we need one in the East Zone, and
We want in all the zones because right now, a lot of students aren't gonna wanna go to college. The way this economy is changing, where jobs are actually starting to gear towards, we need tradespeople, we
right,
need
and
people.
working with your hands.
Yeah.
And when you
You know,
look
plumber
at,
nowadays, you don't have as many choices as you had just 2 years ago,
but
or a
when
year ago.
you look at the scatter charts and the demographics and where the students are that would be more likely to go to the trade schools, it's overwhelmingly in the East Zone, and yet we don't have one in the East Zone, and it's supposed to be, coming, where the affordable housing means that's where you're going to have most of your workers. And if most of the workers are in this area, then it would stand to reason we would have, something there. But anyway, that career tech piece in the Innovation School will definitely be on there. The other items that were on there were about early learning and transportation, and we pretty much decided that those two things, the way they were stated, could come off of our list, which left, there were questions about the budget and facilities. Facilities was cost per student station, and something else about it, but anyway, basically
It
cost
was
per.
asking to allow us to use something other than a COPS
Yes,
to pay for our overage on the cost per student stations, allowing us to use our sales tax and our impact fees for that.
but now wouldn't that,
Sales tax, so that's designated funds though, I don't know if we could.
So right now, remember, we had originally
That's
slotted the sales tax to pay as we go for our schools rather than taking out debt to do it. And as soon as we did that, the law changed and said the only way you can go for over your cost per student station is to pay for it with the COPS, which is incurring debt. So our ask is, if we have sales tax, can we please just use sales tax instead of getting a COPS and then paying the debt back from sales tax from.
So you're just incurring fees just to be able to
Yes.
go around that new
Yes.
change. That
Yes.
makes sense.
So
That's why I
anything-
brought up, we were discussing real quick, I asked what the next meeting was, and for August, we have it set up for July. I put on debt service, which, that's how Ken and I actually met. On the debt service, that was one of my first ever, with this committee. So,
Chelsea had.
I think that was real interesting, because that's where you and I had the first conversation, was about the comps. Is that the way to go? You remember?
Chelsea, did you still have a question? I'm sorry.
You
No,
might have
it's
been right,
okay,
by
it's
the way.
hard, it's hard to, I'm sorry, it was just a couple thoughts ago when we were talking about the trade schools, I just wanted to make a comment and say that I think that there is a need in Cape Coral as well, and the residents of Cape Coral. It's a big area with a huge population, there's tons of kids
Yeah,
that
there,
would do well
but they
with
have
trade.
one. There is one in Cape Coral and there is one in Fort Myers. That's where the only two are located.
Okay, what trades do they focus on, you know what school it's like?
it's Cape Coral Technical College,
Okay.
and they have all kinds of trades.
They have
It's-
design,
it's-
IT, we hire-
Yeah.
They have
we hire-
everything,
yeah, we hire a lot of people.
beautician, the,
I was gonna mention
Oh,
too,
nice.
I'm sorry, that maybe you talked about it, I think there's a huge opportunity, I don't know if the problem with another school in East Zone is money or, but there's a big opportunity to partner with businesses. You probably talked about it.
let me hide my face on this one, but yes, I mean, it's been one of the thorns in my flesh since I got on
We
the
failed
board.
at that miserably.
That that there are businesses, and I'm saying, I've even spoken with business owners and saying, okay, you need welders, then join with us and get a warehouse out here and do a welding, shop or something like that. I've talked to people about, having, an area that's open to do, and that the car dealers or someone would provide the lease of a truck or two to do CDL training. And I mean, we've talked about all kinds of things like that, we just gotta pull the,
So then, I mean, they're open to it, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of red tape in putting stuff together. And one of the things I really like that Dr. Bernier has said, and it's something I've been saying forever and ever again, is prioritizing our resources. A lot of these thoughts and ideas are on the books. Yes, we need to do this, but where is it on the list? And how do we know that this should move up to number 2 and this move down to number 5? That's the type of things. I think we have all the pieces, but it's how and when we do it, and where do we put our biggest focus now? So.
As far as the cost, the technical college, before all of the costs, we were estimating it to be about $80 million. I can't even imagine what it's gonna be at this point.
And now,
And the district was going to fund half, and we were asking for the community or grants or something to fund the other half. And I don't believe anybody has worked on trying to get that other half going, which is what keeps pushing us away, so.
and now it's just
Do
the,
we currently have any sort of program annually where we have an event where local businesses, you've got electric companies, you've got plumbing companies, they've got internal apprenticeship programs up and they can't get people to, come work for them and participate in them. And so do we have any, when I was in college, we had something called Meet the Firms, right? I was an accounting major. So the firms all come and, they go to a hotel or some designated place and all of us kids would go around, and with our resumes and we speak and learn.
right,
And you sell it to the kids, okay, you've gotta have your resume, you've gotta, talk to people, but you also sell it to the employers, like, you've gotta sell yourself here. Here's your opportunity. We're gonna, put all these children, all these kids in front of you. And here's where you can explain, what your industry is, what the career timeline is, what the earning potential is, what the benefits are, all of that. And so that's something that we super low cost. I mean, I say that, but
well,
that could be somewhat low cost, sponsored by those organizations in the media. I don't know if we have that though,
we do. And in fact, it was about maybe 6 months ago, they had one at FSW Arena, what's it called? The new arena over there, at FSW. And I attended it, and yes, they had all these businesses, and some kids actually left there with jobs, and others had interviews set up. So there's that type of affair that we do have in conjunction with businesses and the media and the schools. The schools brought busloads of children to the site, with their resumes and stuff in hand. So yes, that does occur. Not that we couldn't do more of that. The other thing that we have for the trades, and it's usually out at off of 31, the fairgrounds out there, and the building trades and plumbing and all of that. And they actually have hands-on things for kids to do. I mean, they have the brick masons and stuff with the concrete and the bricks. They've got the trucks and simulators. They get to, using nail guns, which was scary to me. But they got to do hands-on and talk to people that actually do those jobs, not the recruiters to get people to do it. And so they ask questions. And it really is good. The other thing that we have is that at some of our high schools, like South is really good with that. they have a lot of businesses and they do building trades, and they have those classes there for kids to kind of learn and get that apprenticeship, so then when they graduate, they go on.
Okay, I guess that's
With
it.
respect to the 40 million, is there any role for the Lee County Foundation, School Foundation? Because they do have a lot of connections in the business community.
It's a very good question.
Yes,
They
it's a
do,
good question,
rather
and
in
it's
addition to
something
Golden
I
Apple, they take on
I brought it up,
half the.
so we'll bring it up again. It would be nice for you guys to bring it up with me.
It seems, I feel like that's something that's underutilized.
He was asking if as in reference to the funds that we're looking for from community, is that something that maybe the Foundation for Lee County Public Schools could help us with?
And my thing to add to that is grants and government money that can help us with that. We just finished with the census in 2020 that shows the need and shows the number of people that are in certain areas and how we should be able to apply for grants and things like that to help maybe with that 40 or help us with our 40. But we just need to pull the trigger.
Should we do the census? That's gonna be so skewed because of everything that was going on there.
Do y'all ever meet with like Joe Paterno? I know that the superintendents of schools often sit on their board. It's Career Source or it's.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have staff members here, Rita Davis, I believe
Yeah, they
is
do,
probably
yeah.
on that.
And they may represent the
Yeah,
superintendent.
we do have
The
representation on all of those.
superintendent's a position.
My thing is that one day we will just pull the fire alarms throughout the whole entire building. I know this is being recorded, but so what? Everybody leaves the building and they have to come back through the front door. And as they come through, they sign what they're doing. So that somehow we can gather everybody together that is working on that type of project and kind of synergize them together. So I know there's a lot of good things that are going on. A lot of people are working on different committees and boards and all that type of thing. So it's happening. We just need to find a way to bubble it up and make it happen faster.
Carl, did you have a question?
My question was, and is, I'm hearing all this stuff, it's all good stuff, background, it's all wonderful, it's great, beautiful,
But
fantastic. My question is, do we not have, or does the school board not have a department that is allocated to secure these grants and fundings and all that stuff? Don't you guys have a department that does that? I know that they mentioned something to that effect. That goes out secure funding and find these funding student.
yes, we
The foundation, I know them. We do.
Yes, we do, and they are in charge of all of the Title I schools, Title 4, 6, 9, everybody else, and all the other ESE, and they're quite busy. They are, and there's only 2 of them, I believe.
Well, when we ask about that, what they're telling us is that they can't find those grants to cover those items out there when they're looking. So, and I think that they're on our one of our upcoming meetings to have discussions, so I think that would be a good topic to have with them at that time.
Because maybe they're focusing so much on the expected federal grants, you're talking Title I and all that. They're not, then you need to have people that also focus on special grants.
Yeah. And we do. Our entitlement grants have their own staff that cover those. So the people that are doing the grant writing are not a part of the entitlement grant process, so they're separate from that. They have gone out lately and got a couple of grants that are very time consuming for them for paperwork, and it's taking a lot of time up, and so the question is, is the bang for the buck on those worth it with as much paperwork as has to be done and as much time as it takes? Are we getting our return on investment for us? So they're looking at that kind of stuff right now. As a matter of fact, they just went out and did a big, or going to a big conference on return on investment so that we can also determine the return on investment for these things. So that's what they're working towards. So, but I think that'll be an amazing topic for them when they come in.
And along with that, Kelly, I'm not trying to give you guys homework, but if you look at the agenda comes out 7 days before our meeting still. And if you happen to look at it, it's divided into departments. So even if you just look at the finance piece and see, is there anything on there that you feel there's a question? And then shoot me an email and say, because prior to the meetings, we do what's called agenda review at the workshop the day before. And we're able to ask questions about something that's on the agenda prior to us voting on it in an action meeting the next day. So your expertise in looking at these things would be most helpful to me, because there may be something you see that,
Can we put on some distribution list so we get
well, it's on board docs.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not like just going in every day and saying, oh, let me go look at board docs. That's not our life.
Okay,
we're saying
all right.
It's like, I mentioned this before in the past too, because it's like, if you want us to look at something, send us a link to it or something, so it's easy for us to.
So
click
that's
on it.
what I'll do.
So it'd be
I will
awesome.
make
Yeah, because
sure.
if it's coming to my email, I'm gonna try to read
If I
it.
get an
I may
email
not get to
saying,
it
here's
until
the
2, 3 in the morning, but
No, I will commit
Then I'll click
to
on it, look
making
at it.
sure to give you a link
Yeah,
to the,
perfect.
any financial stuff on the upcoming agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be
I'll
great.
tell you, you can't get a hold of me out of the time. 15, 16-hour days, you'll get me in the middle of the night.
I've gone into
Okay,
that board doc.
so this will be in our
I can't
minutes.
find it.
And you can follow up to me, it's in our minutes to me. To
Okay.
send the link to the finance, agenda items.
We have 1 minute left. Anything for the good of the order?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, this was a great meeting.
A lot of good information.
Great.
Here's the superintendent back. Okay, the next meeting will be July 20th, 2022. Have a motion? Second, great. We can move on the room, so make which way you want.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Chelsea, look
July
me up
20th.
and send me an email.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you all. You too, have a good summer. Bye-bye.
All right,
Go bail them
guys.
out.
I know.